In next Saturday's episode of Traps, suspicion of murder falls on a colleague of Joe and Chris who's about to retire from the force. And in a few moments we'll be catching up on the gossip in Hollywood Report.
Pantene Hair Health Update.
Would you believe that friction caused by brushing and combing can actually damage unconditioned hair?
Pantene knows this. The provitamin B5 not only nourishes the roots, it penetrates the whole of your hair. Pantene strengthens and protects against combing damage, leaving it so healthy looking it shines.
It's good to know my hair's protected with this, because I'm not going to stop doing this. Would you?
Pantene, daily treatment for healthy looking hair.
All over Ireland, people are reaching for the reviving taste of Lipton tea. Only the finest big leaf teas are selected by our blenders for the unique, fuller Lipton tea flavor that comes with every pour. Reach for Lipton tea yourself and discover the great tasting tea in a bag.
The Three Tenors Los Angeles concert was enjoyed by over 1 billion people worldwide. Now you have a unique opportunity to come backstage and get to know Carreras, Domingo and Pavarotti as never before. Phone now and you'll receive not only a video and CD from the concert, but also an exclusive CD about this historic event with contributions from the stars. And a souvenir program, including personal profiles of the three tenors, translations of the lyrics, and the history of the music. Finally, while stocks last, we're also giving away a special behind-the-scenes video. To reserve this beautifully presented collection, dial 081 466 4646. Call now.
Now the latest glamour and glitz from Hollywood Report.
Welcome to Hollywood Report, the cutting-edge guide to the twilight zone of American entertainment. In tonight's fast-paced and strangely amusing show, we discover that the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, is in fact still alive, according to the Presley Commission.
And it's been indicated to us just within the last year that Elvis may have a desire, and this is entirely his decision, to surface and tell his story.
Robert Redford's new film, Quiz Show, based on the 1950s TV scandal, comes under fire from an injured party.
The movie is rigged and it pretends to be true, and that's not fair.
And Hollywood brings its old classics back to life through the wonders of film preservation.
Film is our popular art form. Film is an artifact to be passed on to the future.
All this and more on your favorite Hollywood Report. Way back in the heady 1950s, when television was sweeping the States as a new national pastime, Americans believed in everything they saw in that glowing little box. But their belief in the integrity of the new medium was shattered when it was discovered that one of America's favourite quiz shows was being rigged by producers with the collusion of two of its contestants. This huge national scandal is the focus of Robert Redford's new film, Quiz Show, but relatives of those involved in the national disgrace are not happy with the way the story's being told.
Now, the last category is movies. We're going to ask you what won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1955. You don't know it, you answer On the Waterfront.
In the film, David Paymer plays Dan Enright, one of the producers responsible for fixing 21, the popular 50s game show. The real-life scandal rocked the nation. Don Enright called director Robert Redford's quiz show an outrage. His father, Dan, died 2 years ago. Don says his father became the fall guy when the deception was exposed, but that's not why he's angry.
He was the producer of the show, and he rigged the show, and I don't defend that, and I don't deny it. But my point is that the movie is rigged. The movie is rigged, and it pretends to be truth, and that's not fair.
Don has tapes of the real show in which champion Herbert Stemple was forced to give a wrong answer and lose to Charles Van Doren, who later admitted he was given the answers.
Then you've scored 20 points.
Enright says the movie misrepresents what really happened in several instances. Redford says he wasn't attempting to make a documentary.
What I chose to do was to take an intimate look at the personal stories behind it. And in doing that, you had to be very careful. You had to look at the documentation and be accurate to the truth of these families and who these people were, but you also had to dramatize.
Mr. Redford is entirely entitled to make whatever movie he wants inspired by the quiz show scandals. He should just identify it as such. And there is nothing on this picture that identifies it as anything but documentary truth.
Enright also wants people to know his father regretted what he did.
I think Charles Van Doren is obviously ashamed. I know my father was deeply ashamed for what they did in changing the truth and presenting it as truth. I think Mr. Redford should be deeply ashamed.
40 million people will watch you on 21.
It's not like anybody has to know, just us three.
Quiz Show is coming to Britain soon. Movies have been around for a century and have become a part of America's cultural heritage. But films don't last forever. Many classics on the silver screen are dissolving in their cans, and it's a race against time for film preservationists to save a century's worth of celluloid. But which ones did they save first?
Time had been unkind to Becky Sharp, dulling the brilliance of the first full Technicolor film. But witness the magic preservationists worked on the 1935 movie Milestone.
Who's coming to take you away, darling? The diligence. Public conveyance?
Becky Sharp is one of the fortunate few. Thousands of movies just like it are languishing in storage, waiting for their turn. Many may literally dissolve into film history sitting on the shelves. Bob Rosen heads up the UCLA Film and Television Archive.
So much of the film, all film made before 1950, is on an unstable film stock, referred to broadly as nitrate film, that over time turns first to a kind of a goo and then to dust.
Preserving a film takes hundreds of hours of painstaking work that must be done by hand, frame by frame. The work is done at colleges, museums, and at the Library of Congress. The Film Preservation Act, passed by Congress in 1988, made saving American movies part of the library's mission. Dick Francis heads up the division charged with saving America's cinematic heritage.
I think that the cinema is a major contribution to the study and understanding of our times.
Film is our popular art form. Film is our document of history. Film is our artifact to be passed on to the future.
Film also chronicles values and attitudes of an era. Social historians can analyze topics such as the images of women and minorities in society.
You want to take it all for yourself and cut me out.
The library's National Film Registry ensures some of the most influential American films will survive. 25 titles are added each year. The 100 already on the registry include silent epic Birth of a Nation. 1930s musicals are represented by features like Footlight Parade, and the Western genre by classics such as High Noon.
Some of you were special deputies when we broke this bunch. I need you again.
2 Jimmy Stewart films, It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, are on the list.
I'm very honored to have been connected with these films and that these honors have been placed on them.
Saving films is expensive business. Studios often team up with preservationists. Dick Francis believes the job shouldn't be left to Hollywood alone, and that America should support film preservation as a matter of national pride.
As far as the cinema as a medium of entertainment and as an art form, this is the country where it reached the peak of its achievement. And I think we should be rating it very highly. I think we should be spending a lot of money on film preservation.
The peak of achievement for the star of This Is the Army didn't come on screen, but thanks to UCLA preservation efforts, future generations will be able to study the medium that launched a president.
With all that fame and wealth, you'd imagine living with a celeb must be one roller coaster ride of parties, dinners, and holiday destinations. But unfortunately for some women in high-profile relationships, the threat of domestic violence is a cloud which hangs over the glitz and glitter of their jet-set lives. Just like other women in a similar situation, they find themselves caught in a violent relationship which they find very hard to leave.
He is a romantic leading man who boasts an extensive list of film credits. He is a rock musician who has sold millions of records. And he plays the loving father and husband in one of the most popular family movies of all time. These men have one thing in common besides fame. They are the subject of allegations that they beat their girlfriends or wives. A high number of domestic assault cases involving celebrities have surfaced recently. Few understand this phenomenon better than Dr. Susan Forward, Nicole Brown Simpson's therapist.
I am devastated that it had to take this tragedy for us to say this goes on in every socioeconomic level. It's not just in the ghettos or in poor families. Spousal abuse is as prevalent in Beverly Hills as it is in Watts.
The accusations faced by O.J. Simpson amounts to the most publicized case of domestic violence ever, but it's by no means the only one. Mickey Rourke pleaded not guilty to charges of battery of his wife, model Carrie Otis. He reportedly slapped the 25-year-old, knocked her to the ground, and kicked her.
Do you realize that there are interesting things going on in this city, fellas?
James Caan is dealing with allegations that he hit a woman who claims she is romantically involved with the actor. John Hurd, who plays the father in the Home Alone movies, was denied custody of his 7-year-old son. The judge decided on the actor's history of physically abusing the boy's mother right in front of the child.
Oh, it's not so. Yeah.
Dudley Moore's then-girlfriend claims he hit her, even calling police to rescue her. She dropped the charges, and now the two are married. Nicole Simpson also let her celebrity husband off the hook.
It's so typical. The fear, the ambivalence, the unwillingness to expose him, the unwillingness to take all the legal steps that were necessary. And of course, you also have a system that, until maybe 5 minutes ago, was not all that sympathetic. A system that really said, oh, it's a family matter, let them work it out. And particularly when you have a celebrity like this, they don't want to put him in jail.
A few have spoken up, braving possible public humiliation. Erin Everly, Axl Rose's ex-wife, is suing the Guns N' Roses member, claiming Rose repeatedly battered her throughout their 4-year relationship.
Slapping her, hitting her, kicking her violently, throwing things at her, throwing objects against the wall, throwing objects off a 12th-floor balcony that included Erin's property, spitting on her, pulling her hair until clumps of hair fell out, dragging her by her hair, throwing her over a wall, throwing her against a wall.
In her lawsuit,
every time that somebody would do something like that to you, it tears away, I think, a bit of your soul. And I think that that's what has happened.
Everly did not voluntarily go public with her story. She was subpoenaed to testify by Rose's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Seymour. The Victoria's Secrets model sued Rose, accusing him of punching and kicking her down a flight of stairs. Everly's lawyer says it's time for men who beat women to pay for their actions no matter how famous they are.
We all have to live by the same social contract, and it doesn't make a damn bit of difference how many hundreds of millions of dollars you make or how many billions of records you sell or how many people you can attract to a concert. You still can't treat other people like they aren't people.
It's a popular rock and roll pastime to muse on whether or not famous rockers faked their deaths to escape their own fame. Conspiracy theorists are never happier than when speculating the death or not of Jim Morrison in Paris. But when it comes down to Elvis, there's absolutely no doubt that he's alive and well, according to the Presley Commission.
We were able to determine that Elvis Presley did not die that day, as reported.
They're dead serious. The Presley Commission was formed to determine once and for all whether Elvis is alive. After a 2-year investigation, the 15-member panel concludes Elvis faked his own death to protect his family because he was a government drug agent.
We have talked with federal sources, whose names, of course, would not be divulged, but assured us that Elvis was, in fact, removed from his property and placed under federal protection.
The commission says Presley's autopsy allegedly shows traces of multiple sclerosis medicine.
There was an individual that was related to his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who did have MS, who died of complications of multiple sclerosis 3.5 weeks prior to Elvis's leaving.
So where is Elvis? Fans may soon meet the king.
And it's been indicated to us just within the last year that Elvis may have a desire, and this is entirely his decision, to surface and tell his story.
You'd have thought he would have turned up for the wedding, though, wouldn't you? Well, that's all for part one. In part two, Mickey Mouse becomes the rapping rodent of the 90s, and we look at the movies as a way of making money.